We're gonna hit them with that Holland's Church or Church of the Holland.
Yo, what is up? Daystar Youth, parents, students, whoever's on. Let us know if you're on. Hit up the chat. Yo, what's up? My name is Parker. If you haven't met me yet, if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I'm the youth pastor here. I am joined with some of my best friends and some of my 252 student interns that I spent the whole summer with. So you guys introduce yourself.
I'm Tyrone.
I'm Annalise.
What's up?
Is that it? That's all you got?
Oh,
Tell them about yourself.
All right, so you know what I'm saying. I could cook some mean mac and cheese. You know what I'm saying. What else we got going on?
Mac and cheese.
Dual and roll. That's cool.
That's true.
And I play basketball.
You play some mini basketball, I've heard.
If that's what the people say.
Hey, if that's
that's what the people say.
Oh man. All right.
I can't cook mac and cheese,
That's
but
all right.
I try. I don't know. I mean, I play soccer. I like it. Yeah.
Your dad's the Espanol campus pastor.
My dad's the Espanol campus pastor.
Facts. You play soccer?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. How long have you played soccer?
like not the longest time.
Not the longest time. So basketball, soccer. I play nothing because I'm old and I'm out of school.
You Twitch stream.
I
Yeah.
Twitch. Hey.
Hey,
Hey, there's that shameless plug. Hey, hit up the Twitch chat.
That's what I'm saying. He
Yo,
don't-
what's
he
up,
don't-
Clay?
Exactly. He don't play games. Exactly. It's cut to the chase.
Right, exactly.
That's what it is.
Well, cool. So look, we've got 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes to get through all the stuff that we want to talk about in this stream. So we wanted to just introduce ourselves real quick. If you're watching, then blow up the chat. Let us know you're here. We don't want to just be talking to a camera the whole time. The whole point of this night is to help you guys interact. We want to interact with you. We don't want it to just be informational. We want it to be relational. So that's our goal for tonight. So there's a little bit of a structure I want to put around our conversation. Okay. So a lot of people at home, you guys are maybe students watching by yourself. You are maybe a parent watching without your student. But hopefully you are able to be a parent and a student watching this together. So what that means is that if you're a student and you have a parent in your home, you need to go get them in front of the screen, the TV, the computer, the phone, whatever you're watching on. This is a night for us all to interact as a family, to partner together with the family, not just the student, not just the parent. I see you guys blowing up the chat. Thank you so much for letting us know you're here. Malachi, Dana, Caitlin, the Noose family coming in strong. Caleb, thank you guys for showing up. Kate Miller.
Yo.
It's awesome. So there's a little bit of a structure there. So we want to partner together. We want to help you guys have conversations in the family home that sometimes are, let's be honest, they're a little bit more difficult to talk about. So like, for example, anxiety around the pandemic and all this kind of stuff, depression, isolation, emotional health. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about as a youth ministry that honestly, like, I'm kind of glad that we're set up this way. Like, we can go into homes now and have conversations like with parents and with students about things that we couldn't before. And I think that's really cool. So that's the goal for tonight. So I'm going to read a little bit of here, and then we're going to kind of open up the conversation here. And then as I read, if you guys have questions or topics that you want us to discuss from a student perspective and a youth pastor's perspective, then just shoot it in the chat. Don't wait for the perfect time to shoot it in, and we'll see if we can get to it, and it will help further the conversation. So here we go. So guys, I was looking up some statistics about just emotional health over COVID, the beginning of COVID till now, basically, and just trying to see like how has that impacted our youth, right? So like you guys, adults and youth, parents of youth, all that stuff. And what I came across was like, wow, I don't think I've like shared this with you guys yet. We were talking a little bit before, but I'm gonna share like the actual percentages, right? So. Barna, which is a Christian research company, they did research all at the beginning of COVID all the way till now. They've just done a whole lot of research and basically just just asked a lot of people a ton of questions, piled it all up, and then they sent it out like last week. So this is what they said. 54% of all Christians have some mental health issue now that is hindering the connection of their life-giving relationships. And it's a direct issue. It's a direct result of COVID. So like the number before that was like way lower, and now it's 54%, and they think that number is only going to rise. The key there is that they said that 54% of all Christians, they said that number is higher in 13 to 17-year-olds. So that's 54%. So that's like half. You have 10 people in a room, like 6 of them are struggling with it. You know what I mean? And so that's some kind of mental health. One of the other things that they said is they said that emotional, spiritual, and relational struggles out of all those 54% were the top mental health issues that they were experiencing. So basically they're saying like if you're in a room of 10 people, 6 of those 10 people are struggling with their emotional health. And because of them struggling with their emotional health, it means they're also suffering in their spiritual and relational connections. So all 3 of those things are connected somehow, right? So that's just wild. And so then if you take it to a more direct effect, like, okay, what from COVID has caused, like, what's the emotional issues that people are experiencing? You know, like, so if 6 of those 10 are experiencing emotional hindrances or blockages that are not helping them or that are preventing them from connecting with life-giving relationships, then what are those things? So 34% of all the Christians that are struggling with that, they're struggling with anxiety, or they were struggling with anxiety and depression before quarantine even started.
Okay.
Before it even started.
34.
So like quarantine hadn't even happened yet. And they were already struggling with isolation, depression, and anxiety. So now, 6, 7, 8 months later, now we have a generation that was already struggling with it more than any generation before. And now it's even higher. And it's in adults and in their kids. And so not only is it affecting you guys and your parents, but it's affecting the home environment too. Right? So that's just kind of crazy. So let's talk about that for a second. So what, for you guys and your experience with just COVID in general, how do you feel like that's impacted your relational health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health? That's a broad question, so you can just kind of throw anything out and we'll run with it. And you guys in the chat too, the Hollemans are here. Come on. If you guys have questions or topics or like, I agree with that, I'm experiencing that, let us know. Throw it in the chat. So what do you guys think?
Well, kind of like I was saying earlier, how it was, like you were in isolation with COVID and everything, like it had been like 2 months, I think, March, April, May, 2 or 3 months. And like going back out this summer into 252 and socializing with people, I kind of forgot, like, I was just like, hey, I'm Annalise, but I forgot how to say, like, how are you? Like, how have you been? Like, how's COVID been for you? Like, tell me about yourself. Like, let's be friends. It kind of just, like, I lost all my social skills, and it's kind of hard to go from, like, just being in my room all alone, like, maybe with, like, a couple other people in my family, and then going out and seeing all these other new people, and it's like, hey, before this, I would have been super open to meeting you, and I wouldn't have been as nervous, but now it's like, what do I do?
Wow, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's intense.
That's crazy. I think for me, it was a wake-up call. So it was kind of like you got to be more intentional with who you're around and like what you want out of the relationship, regardless of whoever it is. Because I noticed like some people from before were like, okay, like we would text back and forth or talk because of proximity, but not because of the fact that like we were actually trying to build something.
Wow.
And then during like kind of the separation, like quarantine, COVID and all that, it was like a lot of people just stopped texting me. And I was like, cool.
Wow.
So at that point it was like, okay, so that means in my mind, for me, it was like, okay, so I don't need to invest in this anymore.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped me to like grow in that and like switch it up because I don't know, like I do not like wasting time.
Yeah.
And that's a time waste.
Come on,
so,
bro. Let's go. Not here for small talk anymore, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Like that disappeared now.
Yeah.
Like, because now it's like, if I go to you, I'm not going to be like, hey,
If
how
you're
you
talking
doing?
not at all, or you're like, I'm sticking with my close friends.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dude, so you saying that, Andrew Maddox, hey, baseball group, where you at, bro?
Sir.
Right here. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are awesome. I love you guys. One of the things that you said, I think that's so profound, and I'm actually seeing it in other areas too, so check this out. What you just said, last Thursday night, we were on our online, small group, right? And we were just talking. We're like, just, first week of small groups, like, hey, how's everybody doing? What's going on? And basically what they said was, like, some people were like, yo, I'm just chilling. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's not really that big of a deal to me.
Facts.
I feel like I'm good. And then other people were like, really just down and out. Like, I'm struggling. Like, I cannot do school this way. Like, just really having a difficult time. One of those students said something that just, like, blew my mind. And I just, like, I've still been thinking, I've been sharing it with people, and I'm still, like, pondering it. He said that originally, when COVID happened, he didn't think it was that big of a deal because he went from school to home and didn't really, like, it didn't really impact him as much. But now that he's further along, dude, check this out. Now that he's further along, he realized that he's more depressed now than he's ever been because he realized that the people that he was around because of proximity, like you just said, weren't actually his friends to begin with. He was just around people all day. So the friends that he thought that he was like, oh, well, like, I'll see them when I go back, he's now realizing they weren't even my friends to begin with.
Got stabbed in the chest.
What do you do when you're transitioning into high school and you're trying to experience something like that? And you're like, how do I move forward from this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because for him, it's kind of like he never had it.
Right.
It's like, So it's really kind of like you got to reshape how you build relationships. And that's the crazy part.
Which then comes back to the conversation of what you hit on the nail on the head. You're talking about the idea of like, I really need to start questioning, where am I investing? Am I investing my time into relationships that are life-giving to me, or am I just kind of allowing them to come and go as they please kind of thing? So, man, that's tough, bro. Especially, and so we're speaking to families, right? So families are, Lucy is saying the same thing. It really showed me who my real friends were and weren't. As parents, we can't minimize the issue or explain it away. That is so good. One of the things that's difficult there, I feel like, for families that I've been having conversations with, is that now the student feels like they have so much pressure to go rebuild everything. It's like, oh, I've got to get back where I was. And even like as a church, we're experiencing that, where we're trying to say, we're not trying to say, hey, we need to go back to normal. We're trying to challenge ourselves and say, okay, what can we learn from this season to bring into our new normal? Like, what can that look like? How can God redeem this season? And so maybe the conversation that we need to have with our families and parents and students, as you guys are processing through this, talk to your parents about this and say, like, talk as a family. How do you feel like God is redeeming this season to create a new normal? Yes, for school, yes, for church, but also for your family. Yeah. Maybe because you've spent more time now together than you ever have before because of homeschooling or whatever, you're realizing some things that you thought were there in your home but aren't really. Those are some difficult conversations, but it takes a lot of character and courage, honestly, to recognize it and to move forward. So I think that's a big deal. So yeah, you guys in the chat, if you have any questions, then please, send the questions in. We'll talk about it. But for you guys in particular, we're kind of in this stage now where, like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like, this might sound kind of weird, but it's almost like we're used to quarantine now. Facts. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm 8 months in.
Facts.
And now my life is just kind of like less than it was. Yeah. And it's not new anymore. I know now that, like, kind of my rhythm is not seeing a lot of people. So as you guys are kind of processing, like, what that looks like for your school, what that looks like for your friendships and your future, like, how are you guys dealing with that? Like, I mean, that's a lot,
What you think?
Big change. Definitely a huge change. And I agree with what you said earlier. Like, when it first started, I didn't see it as a big deal. And now it's like, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, I find myself, like, I feel like I'm doing worse than I was before, in a sense, but I'm also improving, like, especially with school and, like, the transition from summer into school. It was, like, super hard because I wasn't used to it at all, and then we started earlier than we usually did, and it's like, and I've talked to people who feel this way too, and it's, how do I, like, find motivation to do things? How do I, like, put effort into something that I don't want to put effort into? And it's like, why does this matter? And I see, like, people saying, oh, well, it matters because, like, grades, and it goes, like, towards your college, and, like, you have to think about your future. But, like, in this new reality, or I guess new normal that we're in, it's like, am I even going to have a future? Am I going to have the future that I want?
Wow.
And if I'm not, then why am I Like, what am I working towards?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what I hear you saying is like there's this question going on that's kind of filtering your decisions and your energy, where you put your energy and your investments right now. And that question is, will this thing that I'm investing in exist in a year?
Yeah. It's like yes.
That's tough.
It's crazy because like it's almost like you can't just live.
Right.
Like before, I mean, at least for me, like before it was like I could just do stuff, you know, cut it out when I want, you know, or whatever. But now it's like, oh no, you can't, even if you want to.
Yeah.
So it's like and like what you said, like not knowing like what's gonna happen. It's kind of like, do I really like? Is this something that's gonna be there? Because like it's, I would hate to do something and then it gets shut forever, and it's just like, what do I do in my life?
Yeah.
You know?
That's intense. You know, I think that looks like we got a question. How do you feel like God could redeem this season in your life? We'll ask this question in just a second. I wanted to speak to what you both just said, where you just trying to figure out where do I need to invest? What's worth it right now? It really is like what's worth it. One of the things that the Bible continually talks about, in the Bible, in the New Testament especially, we see kind of what has happened recently where the church was kind of scattered. It's like, okay, large gatherings done, all small groups, all whatever, like, you know, house-to-house relationships kind of thing. It's been difficult and interesting to see, but it almost is kind of not hopeful, but you do see hope when you look at the Bible, because that's exactly what happened. When Jesus went back up to heaven, the disciples were scattered. They went out, right? Then the persecution started in the church. Basically, the same. I can imagine a lot of them were asking the same question. You know, like Peter had a wife. So he's like, my family, and jobs, you know, that the disciples, if you're trying to follow Jesus, but you have jobs and a family to take care of and stuff, it's like, I don't really know what to do. I don't know what to invest in. The one thing that every single book of the Bible always points back to is life-giving relationships. It's, okay, I don't know how to get through this season, but I know that I'm connected to God and I'm connected to his family.
Right.
And whatever that looks like, depending on the season, it does not change the fact that God is calling me to relationships. So let's say that you decide to, you know, because now we're asking all kinds of crazy questions with all the COVID stuff, but it's like, let's say that you say, man, I want to be, well, you've kind of like talked about this a little bit, like the idea of full-time ministry one day. It's like, what does that look like for me? Is that something I want to experience or not? And then for you too, it's like, let's say that you go and you try to experience that, and then like all college funding is just shut down for some reason. And then like and then you're just like, you're right back to the beginning. Well, at the end of the day, whatever and doctors going to hospitals, all this kind of stuff, you're going to all these places, and then at the end of the day, you're coming back and you're saying like, okay, well, at the end of the day, that job is just an avenue for me to reach the people that I would have met there anyway.
Right.
There's always a line back to life-giving relationships. And I think that's why that statistic is so scary. Because it's like there's a mental, emotional issue that is preventing you from connecting with life-giving relationships.
It's kind of just like, what were you doing before? You know? And that's the thing. It's like, that's what keeps, that's like replaying in my mind. Like, what was I doing before? Especially like with like the example you gave, like funding and all that shut down. So like, was I relying on being able to go somewhere to do this? Or like, am I trying to do what I can here or wherever I'm at? Right. So, you know, like, it's crazy. Like the impact, even as like a family, like, are we trying to like what's our goal? Like, how are we going to reach people? Or, you know, what are we doing to get better? Like, you noticed, like you said, how you were just like getting better, but it felt like you were getting worse. But like, how are we like growing, you know?
Yeah, well, I think that like you mentioned it a little bit before we started the stream, where you said that it kind of challenges like your perspective too.
Oh yeah.
Like where's your value coming from? Where's your identity coming from? If it's coming from the things that you do, and you kind of talked even about this too, of like the busyness of your schedule, and really I feel like I can relate to this for sure. The busyness of my schedule before quarantine disguised a lot of the issues that I should have been dealing with back then. And I didn't even really understand it. Relationships that I had let deteriorate because I was just too busy. You know, it's like, what's that? And then for you, it's like your perspective. It's like wherever you're going, whatever you're trying to do, whatever your focus is on, what were you doing before? Was your value in the thing that you were going to do, or with the people that you were connecting with? You know, because like the cool thing about the New Testament church is that they were persecuted and they were scattered, but ultimately it was successful and it grew and it changed the world. You know, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah. They didn't turn on each other too. That's a big thing. They were in it together.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
it's a big deal. So let's answer that question. How do you guys feel like God is redeeming this season of your life?
I was redeeming this. I think it's for me. It's like kind of where it's like a little backwards, but it's like you think you thought you were doing so well then, right? But like now it's like, okay, like you did all right, but like what are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like how am I gonna get out of my comfort zone? And like some of it was kind of just like being okay with like doing stuff online, because like for me, I'm like I'd rather just see you, hang out with you, like we can go somewhere. But like being okay with people not being okay with certain things, at like the comfort level. So I'm like, okay. Because like at one point, I was kind of just like, all right, bet. I'll just be by myself. But I was like, God was like, can't do that. I was like, oh, I can't? He's like, nah, you can't do that. So it was like, just being okay with like having to text people more, calling people more, FaceTime people more, until to the point where now we can go out. But even then, it was like, so like redeeming that kind of like the like that. I guess you could say the body of work, but like mentally trying to like get you back to where it's like kind of like working out. Like if you're in the gym for a while, then you stop, you go back, you're like, yeah. So it's kind of like that, but just working on relationships.
That's good. Yeah, kind of what I hear you saying is like with your experience with being okay, it forced you to follow up, to text, to reach out, to really invest in relationships, like you're saying. So really, for you stepping into the next season, especially with what we just talked about, for you're about to step into college. So it's not like, what degree am I going to get? What college am I going to go to? It's, God, who are you leading me to? Who am I going to invest in? Who are the relationships that you're bringing into my life? It's not just a new job opportunity. It's not just a new school opportunity. It's a new relationship opportunity. Right. So like that's huge. That's awesome. What about you, Annalise?
I feel like during this time I really learned the value of like friendships and relationships. Like although I lost a lot of friendships and I kind of fell off with people and like I lost my communication with them, I also gained some really good ones. Like some that I really needed in my life, and I grew closer to some of the people that I already had in my life, and it's like we have so much more in common than I thought. And they make me feel, or it's anybody, any friend like makes you feel valued and like valid in your emotions and your feelings, and I think that's really important, especially during like COVID and all that's going on, because like people, especially with school, for example, like if you don't have like motivation to do your work or anything, people will call you like, oh, you're lazy, like just get up, like you don't do anything. But the reality is like I can't do it, and it's really nice to have those relationships and friendships where it's like, oh, I'm feeling the same way as you, like I can't do this anymore, or I can't find motivation or anything to like keep going, and it's like, well, I don't feel as alone anymore. I don't feel like as much of a disappointment anymore, because I know I'm not the only one going through it.
Wow.
And I think it's just, especially also small groups, which you should join.
Facts. Talk to them. Ain't no excuse now. Ain't no excuse.
The connections you make, especially in small group, is incredible. And like, if you continued your small group over quarantine, like that also really helped me a lot. It's good to keep contact. That's what I learned.
That's awesome. So it sounds like, as we can keep each other accountable, moving forward, we know that we all leaving from this conversation, and just from all the things that we are discovering and have discovered over quarantine, is that we're going to be looking for relationships and investing in relationships. Not so much like what we're doing, but who we're doing it with.
Right.
Like that's the big thing.
That's the big
and then just the value of friendships. Like one of the things that I love, Pastor Allen says all the time, and I love it. He says that true joy, like in life in general, true joy comes from when you are fully known and still yet fully loved. And I feel like that is the definition of what true friendships are. I bet if people watching, if families and kids, whoever, if you filtered that over your past experience with relationships, I wonder how many people would say, yes, that was a true relationship, if they filtered it that way.
Fully known.
fully known, fully loved. It's almost like I know everything about you, good and bad, and I still want to hang out with you. I still love being around you. I still want to
Facts.
invest in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When that happens, that feels so good.
Yeah.
And I feel like coming out of quarantine, like, yeah, it's been tough. But coming out knowing that and looking for that, we will find relationships that will last for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that will be, like, I think that's going to be so cool.
Yeah.
You know? Eventually, y'all are going to be graduating from college and getting into this, like, young adult life stage that I'm in. And we might be that for each other. You know, we might be 80 years old and be like, yo, Big T, what's up? You know? You never know. But,
Yeah,
like,
be that
how
cool-
cool would that be?
That cool
You know,
old
like-
dude.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Man, that's true. You gotta.
Relationship is key to living a full, blessed life. So true. Now, man, the one thing beginning to end that the Bible always talks about is relationships. It's not what you do. Hey, check this out. It's not even what you do for the church.
Talk to him.
It's not even what you do for the building, or like I come and I serve every single Sunday. Well, yes, serving's great, but who are you serving with? Who is that serving connecting you with? Whose stories are you hearing? Who are you reaching out to when you're going through this anxiety or this depression or whatever? Man, I think that's just like, that's so crucial. That's so key. So one of the things that I would love to challenge our parents and our students both with, we talked about 3 major things today and just kind of processed a little bit of that. One of the things is the idea of anxiety and how that has been something that was true before COVID, but has escalated during COVID. Traditionally speaking, someone who is experiencing anxiety is not going to begin the conversation about anxiety.
Nope.
That's probably, that kind of is ironic. It's not going to happen. So, so parents and students, I would really, really encourage every single parent to understand that depression, anxiety, isolation, the conversation, if my student is dealing with that, will probably not be initiated from them. I need to go start that conversation. I think that that's going to be huge. That would be so good to begin that conversation. And even after, if y'all are sitting there watching this together, I really, really hope that you guys can process a lot of this hopeful stuff as well, of like, what's God taught you in this season and how do you feel like he's redeeming this part of your life? So even after we end, we have 3 minutes and we're hopping off this stream. If you guys could stay for just a few more minutes and just process together in your living room or wherever you are and just talk to your students. Maybe you're not even in the same room or same house as your student. Shoot them a text. Or if you are a student and you just want to, you're wondering like, hey, how can I begin this conversation? This is a great opportunity. You can even send this video after it's done streaming to your parents and say, hey, I want to talk about some of this. We need to have homes that are conducive to the truths that God's trying to teach all of us in this fall semester, and we want to help everyone do that. So in an attempt to help with that, I've got a few things that I want all of you to do. Very, very practical things. So the first thing is that if you're a parent and you want to keep up with all of the updates and the small groups and all the ways that kids can stay connected, students, high school, middle school, whatever, can stay connected to the youth ministry and to all the things that we're providing for you in this season, then you can text youth parent, YTH parent, to 97,000. And then the same thing, if you are a Daystar youth yourself, like if you're a student and you're wondering, how do I get connected? Where are the small groups? What's happening this semester that I can look forward to? Because we have a lot of that coming up. Yeah, so
Yes,
Daystar Youth, text Daystar Youth, no spaces, Daystar YTH to 97,000 as well. And then for all of our parents and all of our students, you need to know that small groups are live right now. They're happening every single week.
Yep.
Like we're all in small groups and we're loving it. So
yeah,
small group every Wednesday. When's your small group happening?
Thursday
Friday,
night.
Thursday. Oh, Thursday, right.
Yeah.
So y'all having a bonfire tomorrow night, right?
We are having a bonfire.
Hey, come on, bonfires are
Hey,
happening.
you better sign up.
So
That's all I
so
got to
get
say.
connected to relationships in small groups. They're on the directory. We'll send the link out to the texting service. So if you sign up for the texting service, you'll get all this. Don't worry about it. And then Right Now Media has something that I want to share with you guys. Right Now Media, if you don't know what that is, it's legit. It's basically Netflix for our church.
Exactly.
There's a ton of resources and small groups on there, and it is available for free, provided from our church for everyone for free.
Free.
It doesn't matter where you are, how long you've been attending, or if you're not even attending yet, it's for you. It's Right Now Media, and there is a curriculum on there by Tony Evans, and it is called Raising Kingdom Kids. It is fantastic. If you are a parent and you are wondering how to have these conversations after, that's how you do it. You need to go watch that. Raising Kingdom Kids is how you watch that. So we'll send all this information out in the texting service afterwards. So we have 28 seconds. And I actually need to, let me do this real quick. All right, there we go. I had to change that. It's 97,000, not 9,700. So 97,000, and then youth, parent.
Boom.
Youth parent to 97,000. So if you text those, then we will get you connected. Thank you for blowing up the chat and letting us know you're here, asking your questions, all that stuff. We'll stay connected, and we'll see you next week, same exact time, 7:30, same channel, different people, but same conversation. We're having this conversation every single week. We love you guys, and we cannot wait to connect again with you next week. So we love you.
Peace.